Hi everyone, can I welcome you to the extraordinary meeting held Tuesday the 30th of June, and can I state that this council meeting has been recorded and will be published online via Facebook. To those present in the meeting today, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and or the General Manager have the authority to pause the recording if comments or debates are considered defamatory or otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Participants are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. Thank you everyone. I call for apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Jim Nolan. I'll read it out. My request for time off this afternoon to attend the meeting has not been approved. I regret this means I will not be able to attend. Please accept my apologies. I request a leave of absence from this meeting if appropriate. Apologies for the short notice. My supervisor has just informed me this afternoon. Can I have a move for the apology and the leave of absence granted?
Councillor Adams, Councillor Brown.
Moved by Councillor Adams, second by Councillor Brown. Councillor Page has joined us. His audio is just kicking in. Thank you, Councillor Page. I'll put that, all those in favour. Press your green button.
Councillor Clark's not there. She's come back to her. She's not in her little video.
Okay, well she might be there, but
yeah, I think she's there. She's just not in the titles.
Yeah,
she's not sitting there.
Okay, Councillor Page, you're voting. You know your green buttons in the participants section. You need to unmute yourself, Councillor Page.
I'm trying to. So what are we voting on, and I'll vote.
It's you need to open up for the vote anyway. It's the participants section. If you open up that, you'll see your green button or your red buttons for yes, no voting, and your blue hand for raising your hand. So it's actually, we're voting on accepting and apologies and granting leave for Councillor Jim Nolan for not attending tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll vote now.
Thank you. And Councillor Clark, are you voting?
Yes.
Can you? No, you need to press your green button.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's a unanimous vote. Can I thank you, everyone? We'll move to the prayer.
Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen. Thank
you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Gallagher, the acknowledgement of country. You need to unmute you, Councillor. You'll need to unmute you. Yeah,
yes, I acknowledge the traditional owners and the land upon which we meet and pay our respect to those elders, both past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. We move to reports. Report item 1, report number 89/20, page 3. This is the draft delivery program 2020-2022, incorporating the operational plan inclusive of the statement of revenue policy and draft schedule fees and charges. Do I have a mover? A mover? Councillor Brown, seconder Councillor Clark. Councillor Brown, do you want to speak to the motion? We'll just unmute you.
Yes, I'm unmuted. I don't think so, Madam Mayor. I'm happy with those. I've looked carefully at all of those parts of the recommendation. I'm certainly happy to move it.
You're happy to move it, thank you. Speakers against, yep. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I speak against the report. and the motion. What concerns me greatly is there's an expectation of capital projects budget at 40 million inclusive expected capital grants budget. This whole budget, the operational plan and the guesstimates, as I like to call it, is totally irresponsible. It's irresponsible for council to even consider adopting a plan that takes no consideration of what is happening now. We have just had a mine that has put off 70 people. We're talking about borrowing an additional $10 million, and this pie in the sky stuff of 30-something million dollars in grants. It's not going to happen. As a council, council spent several years moving rates from residential and business from the mines onto rates on residential and business. It put a huge impact on those two rating structures. Council acknowledged that the mines were not going to or necessarily could close at any time, and now we have a council that pats themselves on the back and blames every other council up until now, does not blame itself for the last near 4 years. In September, it'll be 4 years this council will have been going. And in that time, they will have borrowed, we as a council will have borrowed in excess of $20 million to burden future councils. This is not how a council should operate. It's not how any business should operate. Without a doubt, this council is putting the community in a position where if the mines or any unforeseen circumstance had it, the town would be almost incapable of surviving. These are the concerns I have. They are legitimate concerns. They're concerns that are often ignored by many councillors. I remember, and I just remembered reading an email not that long ago where it was talked about Greg Wright and how he had come into the picture and told the council that they were in a financial position that was not well received. And all of a sudden, councillors understood the financial impacts of spending more than what they had. Councillors need to look at the reports and read the reports as if they were spending their own household budget. And the reality is you cannot use credit cards to pay bills, and that's what this is all about. Council needs to start working within its budgets and providing a service that the community expect, but without indebting future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Speakers for? No speakers for? Okay, write a reply then, Councillor Brown. Just unmute yourself. What'd you do to We've lost your visual, Councillor Brown. If you can hear us, we've lost your visual, and there, we've got you back. Just unmute yourself so we can hear you. I don't think you can touch it every time. I think just try and unmute yourself again. There you go. We can hear you now.
Right, it keeps disconnecting.
Yeah.
I'll just take these off. It's too difficult. Something happened. It keeps disconnecting from the Zoom and then reconnecting. In response to In response to Councillor Kennedy, I'll just say that Councillor Kennedy is sorry, it's very confusing. I keep getting mixed messages here. Councillor Kennedy is saying that what council is proposing in this delivery program will cause indebtedness to future generations. In fact, the whole basis of the stimulus package, which is what we're taking advantage of with this proposed program, is based on the concept of intergenerational fairness. In fact, it is fairer to spread the cost of these major projects on not only the generation that initiates them, but future generations. That's what intergenerational fairness is. In response to the unfortunate position that we're in with respect to one of the major mining companies in town, I think that underlines the need for these major capital projects which will provide economic stimulus to Broken Hill. The principle of this program is, as we've often said, is not to update our council's infrastructure, but to provide those benefits around the city. I think there will be a real need for projects which will employ people who are currently unemployed, not only from the mining industry, but from the other businesses that are suffering and will continue to suffer from the COVID crisis. Thanks, Madam
Thank you,
Mayor.
councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, press your green button. Thank you, councillor Page. So we'll call it out. Mayor Turley, councillor McCool, councillor Adams, councillor Gallagher, councillor Brown, councillor Clark, against councillor Kennedy, councillor Page and councillor Allgate. Declare that motion carried. Thank you, councillors, for the good debate. We'll now move to the Broken Hill item number 2, Broken Hill City Council Report 90/20, page 117, the long-term financial plan. Do I have a mover for this? A mover for this, councillors? Councillor Clark, second by councillor Adams. So, councillor Clark, do you want to speak to that?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, I might have something to say afterward, but in introducing it, I'd just like to say that this carries on the previous revenue and revenue policy and draft schedule of fees and charges. And I think this is where we have our real discussion of the various scenarios which the aim of which is to generate jobs, employment, you know, and some sort of income for the community. We have been really badly hit by COVID, and I don't just mean the council, I mean businesses as well. So that we can only benefit if the council takes on the role of creating jobs. You can't do anything if you've got no money. We haven't got any money, so we've got to get some. So that, I think, is the whole crux of why we have to get the loan, the loan which is going to help us to have projects in this city which is going to create jobs. It's no guarantee, of course, that you can just get money. We have to be approved, of course, by Treasury. If they don't think we can pay it back, we get no money. But we have to work on the assumption that we are in a good financial position, or a good position, we should say, to be able to repay the loan, get these projects started and get people into jobs. So I'm happy to move this motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Speakers against, councillor Kennedy, and we know that we've actually lost councillor Allgate. Speakers against, councillor Kennedy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is what makes me think that the budget and our long-term budget is wrong. Councillor Clark just said we're a council with no money, hence why we need to borrow money. We're a council that gave back $5.7 million to BHP. We're a council that talks about making jobs and creating jobs in town by bringing in money with this fantasy about $30 million in grants when we couldn't even spend $5.7 million with BHP money. We spend millions of dollars on the Civic Centre from builders out of town. We get signs that are designed from out of town. We have a transfer station that's contractors out of town. I don't think there is too many people in the community that believes that the $10 million is about creating jobs in town for locals. Council has shown their hands many, many times by buying outside of town. Our cars that we purchase for the Broken Hill City Council are from out of town. We do not look after local businesses as a council. In fact, the council rarely buys locally. It's only recently we're talking about having a policy that gives 10% discount to locals. That still does not mean we're going to use them, because at the end of the day, the price only makes a small percentage of it. What happens with our council is too often out-of-town organisations are used. We, by Councillor Clark's own admission, we have no money, hence we need to borrow money to operate. This is the problem when you start administering a council that needs to borrow money to do anything, to, as Councillor Brown said in the last thing, to spread the cost. Well, you don't spread the cost by borrowing money so future people have to pay for the costs that you do at the time. That's not spreading the income. Spreading the income would be spending small amounts of money within your budget and financially being responsible to all generations, not the 4 or the 10 councillors that are here today spending money they don't have, they weren't good enough to put aside as a council. Now, we have Councillor Ron Page who was a previous mayor. I'm quite happy to say I was part of a council that Ron Page was mayor of, where we had $13 million in reserves for discretionary expenditure, not money that was wasted. There was no money borrowed during that time where Ron Page was the mayor of this city. No money was needed to be borrowed to operate because that council had its own money to spend. That council was able to put $2 million plus away for a swimming pool. Didn't need grant funding, didn't need to borrow money, and Ron Page, as the mayor, could be quite proud of himself for what he did as a mayor. This council is borrowing money because, as Councillor Clark said, because it has none. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Speakers for? No speakers for? Councillor Clark, would you like a right of reply?
Yes. Yes, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that was quite quite a spiel there. First of all, BHP. I'm not sure why the giving back of the BHP money at temporarily even enters this particular debate here. The money was given back then because that particular project was not ready. When we are ready to get that money from BHP, yes, we will be getting it. Millions going out of town for the Civic Centre, contractors out of town, don't look after businesses. Our new procurement policy, and Councillor Kennedy does know about this, the procurement policy, which is giving advantage to our local businesses. I don't think we can complain about that. I think we have to give that a big tick. The people in the future, always this happens. Always, always, always. You have to spread the the loan over time. And yes, as people are coming along, they will be paying it back, but they will also be enjoying the fruits of that loan. They will be enjoying the infrastructure and the projects which are undertaken by this council. I'm not even going to comment on on Councillor Page. I don't think he enters into this argument at all. I think that's very, very unfair of Councillor Kennedy to drag Councillor Page into this. I know nothing about Councillor Page's reserves of money. Any figure could have been quoted there. It's just thrown into the air. No money borrowed. I don't know. I do know that when this council started, when I came onto this council, there was a deficit and there was a huge backlog of infrastructure. And while I am not placing that at Councillor Page's feet, I would not do that. I am telling you what the situation is. We have started from behind the 8 ball. The council at the moment, I see around town the projects which are being carried out by this council. They're doing a great job with the limited workforce, COVID-19 closing down practically everything you can find. Council's doing a great job. I think we've got to place a little bit more positivity on this council and on the work that they're doing. I think we need to look to the future and say, okay, we can do absolutely nothing, and what will you get? You'll get nothing. You'll get nothing back. You'll get exactly what you deserve, nothing. If this community is happy with that, well, okay, we can sit on our hands and we can say, good job, we do nothing. We don't harm anybody. We're not harming anybody at all, but we're not achieving anything either. I think we have to move ahead, Madam Mayor, move ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Kennedy, you had a hand up. Did you have a question?
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
What was your point of order?
Councillor Clark said that the BHP money will be given back. We don't know that. We have to reapply. I think it's completely
That's not a point of order,
misleading.
Councillor.
Well, it is. At the point of order is you cannot state a position in your motion that's not true. As far as council hasn't applied for the 5.7 million, so we won't know. Now, it'll be different, and we've received no.
Can I rule on your point of order? As you said in your speech that council gave back the BHP funding, you know, I would never, as chair, I can call a point of order on that. It's part of the debate. Thank you, councillor. So, no, I don't accept your point of order, but thank you for putting your hand up. I'll put the vote. All those in favour? And against? Councillor Brown, are you voting? Thank you. Councillor Turley, Councillor LeCour, Councillor Adams, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Brown, Councillor Clark. For the motion, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Page and Councillor Allgate against the motion. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move now to report number 3. Item 3, report number 991/20, page 163. This is council notice of motion contravening Broken Hill City Council's Code of Meeting Practice adopted. Do I have a mover for the report? Do I have a mover for the report, councillors? Councillor Adams, is there a seconder? Councillor Brown. Councillor Adams, do you want to speak to the report?
Probably. Well, I don't really know how much more there is to say. It's been deemed illegal by the general manager who has checked into it all. And as far as I'm concerned, that's where we stand. It's an illegal motion.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Councillor Kennedy, you want to speak against the motion?
Thank Thank you, Madam Mayor. For starters, it's not a notice of motion, it was a notice of extraordinary meeting. So there's a agenda item there. It was a notice of extraordinary meeting that had the agenda item was a motion, which is not necessary under the Act. The Act is 3.66 of the Local Government Act that just requires 2 signatures of councils. As a councillor, I put that motion to, I put that extraordinary meeting to council because I believe it's very important that council actually endorse the workforce.
Sorry, councillor, I think we'll need to move in camera. Can I have a move to move in camera? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the only item for discussion is the item
On the agenda.
Yeah. Point of order, councillor Kennedy, you need to speak to the item on the agenda. And if you speak to that, we won't need to move in.
Am I still speaking? Am I still speaking? The agenda item is this. Now, as we know, any agenda item that comes on, once it's an agenda item, we then get to debate the agenda item. We do not have to stay within, I can move an amendment to this, which allows me to speak. When an agenda item is an agenda item, it doesn't mean that the general manager gets to say that we can only speak on what the general managers put on the agenda. We, the councillors, determine what the agenda is. I've put an item on.
Sorry, councillor Kennedy, we've
on
lost
the
your
business
sound.
paper, which is an agenda thing. What? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we just lost your sound for a while.
We, as a councillor, once it's on the agenda, I get to speak. The general manager doesn't get the opportunity to silence me, nor the mayor. As a councillor and elected representative of the community, I get to put my voice forward. There is an agenda item there that the mayor, that the general manager has ruled out of order, that he ruled as a notice, as a motion, as opposed to a notice of extraordinary meeting, which was quite clear. Call for an extraordinary meeting moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Kennedy, co-signed by Councillor Allgate. That then allowed us to put an item on the agenda to speak about. I am now speaking about that agenda. I'm not attempting to move.
Councillor, point of order on you, councillor. The item, the agenda item is in front of us today. The determination by the general manager is that your motion was illegal. You do have another motion, an extraordinary meeting that we will be having, and you have some notes to that.
Could you just explain to me then, Madam Mayor, because it's quite important and it is important for the way the thing. You're telling me that Councillor Allgate, in my request for an extraordinary meeting to discuss agenda item that we put has been refused by you. Is that you have refused?
Councillor Kennedy, I'm talking, thank you. Councillor Kennedy, I'm speaking, thank you. That's not the case. You have put in a request. The general manager, and I'll read this out, the Broken Hill City Council receipt of a request to the mayor. The notice of motion is received. Firstly, does not comply with clause 3.12 of the Broken Hill City Council Code of Meeting Practice as adopted on the 29th of April, minute number 46238. There has been no argument provided in support of the motion. Secondly, the notice of motion is considered unlawful as per clause 3.19 of the adopted Code of Meeting Practice, given it relates to the staffing operations of council, which are the clear responsibility of the general manager as per clause section schedule 335 of the Local Government Act 1993. So Councillor Kennedy, the report we have in front of us. Now I note that you have got another request for an extraordinary meeting and you have provided further information. And I will, so I'm just saying that the motion, what is in front of us is the report by the general manager. So you can debate the report by the general manager, but you can't debate your original motion because it's deemed that it is not a legal motion, as you were trained over the weekend.
This is very disappointing, Madam Mayor. As the chair of this meeting, you have interrupted the councillor's ability to speak. You have interjected on me a number of times. What was quite clear at the meeting procedures, as a chairman, you should resolve yourself from debate. You have got into the debate with the councillor, which shows your inability to be the chair of the meeting in an adequate way. You're there to rule on different points of view. As you got into debate, you used your position of chair to speak over a fellow councillor, stop them from putting their point of view on a matter that is before the council meeting. It is terrible that you as the chairperson have done this. The community's watching this, and I'm glad they are watching this. They get to see that the
Sorry, I've
chair...
got a point of order, Councillor Kennedy, on you. Councillor Adams, what's your point of order?
My point of order is that this is becoming a personal attack on the mayor, who was the chair of this council, and I think it should be stopped.
Councillor Kennedy, debate the issue. Councillor Adams has said what is perceived as a personal attack on the mayor. As rightfully you're aware that when the mayor speaks, it is actually all councillors, as if the mayor stands, all councillors must listen to the mayor and the role of the mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. So
You've ruled me out of order. You ruled me out of order.
Another point of order. I'll just check. Councillor Clark, do you have a point of order? You need to unmute yourself. Councillor Clark, you've got your hand up. Do you have a point of order?
I had my hand up for a while there. I was going to ask in the first place.
That's okay. I've got to go back to Councillor Kennedy. I just needed to
Okay.
check if you had a point of order.
Sure. No,
We
that's
need
all right.
another hand for the points of order. Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Please debate what is in front of you.
Well, it certainly feels like bullying tonight, that's for sure. And I'm allowed to say that I feel bullied and harassed. Okay, on the record, Councillor Tom Kennedy feels bullied and harassed by Councillor Adams, Mayor Turley and Councillor Clark. My view said, I feel extremely bullied. It's intimidating. It makes my job as a councillor very difficult. It's difficult when everyone votes against everything you put up just because you put it up. But when people start deliberately coming in and attempt to intimidate and bully, and that's how I feel. The reality is I'm allowed to feel that way, and Councillor Clark can put a hand up and say, I'm not mean to do that. Bullying's the way the person feels, and I feel completely bullied. And now back to my debate.
Sorry, Councillor Kennedy, I just need to check if there is a point of order by Councillor Clark because she's raising a hand.
Yes.
So my apologies, Councillor Kennedy. As you know, when there's a point of order, I have to go to that point of order. Councillor Clark?
Yes, I wanted explained exactly how I bullied Councillor Kennedy. I didn't even speak. So
No,
how
that's
have I
okay.
bullied Councillor Kennedy?
Councillor Kennedy, did you want to respond?
Interruption. Councillor Clark, anyone else want to interrupt? Mayor Turley, you'd like someone else to interrupt? More bullying tonight? It's an absolute disgrace that you're allowing a councillor to be treated like this at a public meeting. It is an absolute disgrace that this is happening.
Oh,
it
for
is so
goodness sake.
intimidating to have councillor after councillor interrupt and the mayor allow that person to interject. When I put my hand up in the middle of debate, it's allowed to go to the end. I had my hand up when Councillor Clark was speaking on the previous item. The mayor made no attempt to see what my point of order was. It went to the end of the discussion from Councillor Clark. On 3 occasions so far, you've interrupted yourself and 2 other councillors. It's intimidating, it's bullying, and there's nothing short of it. If I could continue back to my debate without harassment, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Just be aware, we do have to try and manage the points of order, and I absolutely believe we need another hand to understand when there's a point of order. So thank you, everyone.
Well,
Keep going, Councillor Kennedy.
You didn't acknowledge my hand, Mayor Turley, when it was up by Councillor Clark. Maybe you only see the hands you want to see, I don't know. But it certainly feels very, very intimidating to me. If I could go back to what I was saying, please.
Yes, of course.
The Labor Party is a union party and they've let the workers down, as simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a right of reply, Councillor Clark? Councillor Adams, sorry.
No, Madam Mayor, I think enough has been said on this little particular subject.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Adams, you
I
need to
know,
vote.
I know, I'm trying.
And so all those in favour, Councillor Shirley, Councillor LaCour, Councillor Adams, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Brown, Councillor Clark, against Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Page and Councillor Allgate. Thank you, councillors. As I said, there will be another extraordinary meeting to address this issue, and we'll set a date as quickly as we can. And thank you, everyone. With that, I'll close the meeting. Oh, sorry, Councillor Page.
Yes, Madam Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think it would be a very appropriate time to host our meetings in the bomb shelter because I think it's very safe in Broken Hill at the moment, and I think we should take a vote on it tonight to have our future meetings in the chamber. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Absolutely agree with you, but I won't take a vote tonight. As you know, we're an extraordinary meeting. Councillor Page, you may not recall, but at the last meeting last week, I asked for the General Manager to investigate for all of us to come back to the bomb shelter and to do consultation with the councillors to make sure they could come back. One of the issues is that we need all back in because we do not have the facilities in there to partly Zoom the meeting. So Councillor, the General Manager is investigating that. Absolutely agree with you, but I can't take a motion tonight. We already discussed that at the last meeting. So with that, thank you, Councillor Page.
Madam Mayor, can I just make, at the training session the other day, it was made very clear the changes that have been made to the extraordinary meetings, the Mayor can accept a motion that's viewed as being urgent, and I think this motion is urgent, and we should take a vote tonight on having it back in the chamber.
Councillor Page, I don't deem it as urgent when I've already asked the General Manager to ensure that we get back into the chamber.
Yeah, well, Madam Mayor, that's your ruling.
Yep, that's my ruling. Thank you though, Councillor Page, and hopefully we're back this month. But we need to make sure our councillors can come back. And if you could actually, if all the councillors could start to let us know that you'll be able to come back to the chamber. Thank you, everyone. I'll close the meeting and we'll have an extraordinary meeting, a date arranged very soon. Thank you, everyone.